welcome and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm truly honored to have you here joining me for this important conversation on raising young minds with purpose. Whether you're a parent or an educator or a youth mentor, or simply someone who cares deeply about the next generation, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to explore powerful tools that help children not just learn, but think deeply, reflect meaningfully, and grow with intention. Because we are not just raising future professionals, we are raising future leaders with character and purpose. So, before starting the topic, I would like to briefly share my story, just so you know the heart behind this work. I began my career in healthcare as a licensed pharmacist, but when I moved into education, I felt something shift. It found the place where I truly belonged. So from last 15 years, I've been working in international school settings with different cultures, systems, and leading curricula, especially in IB. These experiences have shown me how powerful it is when children learn to think, reflect, and engage independently. And that's what led me into curriculum designing and mentoring educators, especially and adults, to empower them to nurture thinking skills, creativity, and independence in their students. Then comes the volunteering part. That's something that has remained a deeply personal part of my journey. Because whether it's youth initiatives, school support, or community outreach, giving back keeps me grounded in what truly matters to me. So let's step into the world of child today. It's not only the parents, not only friends. There are lots of factors that are involved in child's inner world. One moment they are excited, the other moment they are excluded, they are feeling judged, they are confused, sometimes by the online news or the online post, sometimes by the friends' pressure they get. These are the moments that may seem small, but these are the everyday moments that really shape their identity, their confidence, and the way they see right and wrong. So, what's the real question? The real question is not just what's happening around them, but what's happening inside them. Do they stop thinking? Do they react and follow? Do they equip to process what they are feeling? Or are they just absorbing what the world throws at them? We will come back to this question again and again today, because thinking isn't just about academics, it's about navigating life. So let's pause and reflect. Step back for a moment and think, in all the noise and busyness of the world around them, are we raising thinkers or just followers? It's a simple question, but one that really matters a lot. I don't need answers from you, but I'll stay here for a moment so that you'll get a time to reflect on this question. Okay, let's pause here for a moment and think about what exactly we are seeing in the current generation. Whether it's your own child, a student you teach, your nephew, or even the kids in your community, what are some thinking struggles that you notice? These reflections, they are really important because later on, while we walk through the details of the topic that we are discussing today, we will understand how exactly they are all related to thinking skills. Now, let's dive into how we can address these challenges and empower the children to think more critically and independently. Let me give you a quick roadmap for today. You know what to expect. You know what's the journey. This roadmap was all about the expectation that you can set what you will receive by the end of this webinar. We will divide the webinar into three sections: what, why, and how. What true thinking is, what is metacognition, why it's important, how can we build the thinking skills, would be covered in how. Um, in the how part, I will walk through some easy tools that you can start using at home, whether for little ones, big kids, or even teenagers. And throughout all of this, we'll reflect together on how our theme gives such a powerful framework to raise minds that aren't just smart, but also grounded and guided. Let's start with what is real thinking and metacognition. Okay, so this is a thought experiment that I would like to do with you. Something different. Let's take a deep breath and imagine this with me. Imagine, what if all the written knowledge in the world was about to disappear? Every book, every article, every website gone forever. But before it vanishes, you get one chance. Only you remember what used to exist. Only you can choose 5 books to save, just 5 books. So, which one would you choose? And maybe more importantly, why those? If you would like to write your answers in the chat, it's okay. If you don't want to write, I'll just wait for a while and then I'll tell you why exactly I did this thought experiment with you. So, so even if you thought, well, that's never going to happen, your brain probably still did something. Maybe you felt a little curiosity. Maybe you thought of your favorite book from childhood. Or maybe you thought about which books could help rebuild the world. Whatever it is, your brain was working and was choosing, wondering, feeling, and weighing different options. And that is thinking, not just recalling facts, but engaging with values, meaning, and possibility. So today, we are not just talking about what we think, we are diving into how we think and how to nurture that in the next generation. Let's go a little deeper now. We have just imagined a big what if, and that sparked a range of thoughts, emotions, and maybe even decisions. But here's the thing, the real thinking doesn't happen just in one part of the brain. It's not just IQ or facts, it's a full body, heart, and soul activity. I want to bring in a powerful insight from Ibn Sina, one of the greatest scholars of Islamic golden age. He said, the rational soul is the highest of the faculties of the soul, through which man perceives the intelligible and distinguishes between truth and falsehood. What he really trying, or what he really telling us, is our ability to think is one of the greatest gift. It's what helps us make sense of world and decide what's real, what's right, and what matters. Now, when we talk about developing our children's thinking, it's not just about academics. Thinking actually has 3 powerful dimensions and all work together. The first one is cognitive. This is the classic dimension of thinking, asking why does this happen? It's where children analyze, ask questions, and make logical connections. It's their brain figuring out things. The second is emotional thinking. asking, how does this impact me and others? This is where compassion and empathy grows. It's when a child starts understanding feelings, perspectives, and how their actions affect them and people around them. And finally, action oriented thinking. What can I do about it? This is where they take initiative. They think critically and then they decide. They take responsibility and they act, even in small ways. So when we say we want to raise thinking children, this is what we mean. So we often hear the phrase, build thinking muscles. And just like with our bodies, our minds need different exercises to grow strong, sharp, and flexible. But thinking isn't just one skill, it's a toolkit. Each type of thinking is a different tool. And children, they need to learn when and how to use them. Some tools, they help them solve problems, while others help them imagine new possibilities. Some help them plan ahead, and others help them grow from the past. Researchers, psychologists, and educators, including pioneers like Piaget and Vygotsky, who studied children learn through play and interaction, they helped us understand how children's mind evolve. They showed us that cognitive development is not just about facts, it's about how children think, play, feel, and reflect. So, building on their work, experts have identified several key types of thinking. We will explore each one of them together. Let's start with creative thinking. I've used some metaphors like truth seeker, dreamer's brush, builder's puzzle. We will explore them one by one. Critical thinking. This is a truth seeker. It's the part of the mind that asks, is it accurate? What's the proof? Am I being fair? So when children use critical thinking, they start to question things thoughtfully. They learn to spot mistakes. They think clearly. They recognize when something might be one sided or unfair. As adults, critical thinking helps us read the news wisely, make financial choices, or even navigate our relationships. It empowers us to pause, to assess facts over feelings, and to make decisions that align with our values rather than social pressure or any kind of impulse. So, raising a child who can think critically means raising someone who doesn't just go along with the crowd. They lead with clarity and with conscience. Then comes the creative thinking. We can also call it a dreamer's tool. It's the part of the mind that says, what if? Why not? Let's try something different. So, creativity is not just for the artist, it's for everyone. It fuels invention, problem solving, humor, flexibility, and curiosity. When children think creatively, they aren't afraid to experiment, to make mistakes. They are ready to try again and again, even after several failures. They explore open ended questions. They see what could be, not just what is. As an adult, this tool empowers us to adjust when things change, solve problems which even no one saw coming, or to find new ways to connect with teens, reinvent career, turn a passion into side hustle, or even transform everyday situations. Like, for example, making a meal from almost an empty fridge. It's the spark behind entrepreneurship, innovation, and the joy of tackling challenges. So, children who grow up thinking creatively believe in their ability to shape change, whether it's inventing new solutions or adapting to new environments. Analytical thinking. we can call it a builder's tool or a builder's puzzle. It breaks things down, it organizes, it looks for structure, it asks, how does this work? What are the parts? What patterns do I see? When children they use analytical thinking, they start to break problems into steps, look for systems, compare and contrast. It's precise, it's logical, and it's mind's way of solving a puzzle or a problem. As adults, we use this thinking in everyday routine, for example, troubleshoot Wi Fi, or when we need to analyze job offers side by side, or when we are planning family trips, or we are trying to trace the cause of a car issue, or even managing household expenses by spotting spending habits, by breaking down big goals into smaller actions, and by untangling a recipe that goes wrong. So, analytical thinking is like a microscope, it zooms into the details. It's the backbone of coding, engineering, and everyday problem solving. Children who strengthen this skill grow in clear, solution oriented thinkers, capable of making sound decisions in a complex world. Strategic thinking, or we can say planner's tool or planner's map. It, look, it looks ahead, considers consequences, and builds paths. It asks, what's the goal? What's the best way to get there? What could go wrong? And how do I prepare? Strategic thinking helps children set goals, prioritize steps, and adjust when life throws curveballs. It's like a compass, it guides the direction. As an adult, this tool shapes long term plans, from managing a family budget, or launching a new project, or growing a business, or even helping children to navigate important milestones. It's the thinking we use to anticipate obstacles, weigh pros and cons, and stay focused when faced with distraction. It teaches foresight, smart choices, and intentional action. Children who think strategically, they learn that success isn't about rushing, it's about moving with vision and with purpose. Reflective thinking. This is the growth tool. It's all about looking back and understanding the journey you have taken. It's not about thinking, but about digging deeper into what happened and why it happened. Reflective thinking is a process of pausing and reflecting on experiences, feelings, and actions. It helps us ask questions like, what went well? What didn't go as planned? How did I feel in that moment? What can I do differently next time? It's like having an inner mirror, but instead of seeing your outer appearance, it shows you your inner world, your choices, your emotions, your actions. This self awareness leads to growth, maturity, and emotional strength. Reflective thinking gives children the chance to understand themselves and their experiences more deeply. When children reflect, they learn how to process their feelings, understand consequences of their actions, and even make better decisions moving forward. It's not even just about moving forward, rather, looking back, understanding, and improving every time with every experience. As adults, reflective thinking helps us learn from mistakes, adjust our behavior, develop stronger relationships, and allows us to take responsibility for our actions and make more thoughtful choices in the future. So basically, children who practice reflective thinking, they develop the ability of taking accountability for their actions and grow into thoughtful, emotionally intelligent individuals. Okay, and all of this is backed by the research from educational psychology, as I told you, different psychologists and researchers. You can see the sources I've mentioned on the slide. Okay, so let's reflect. What kind of thinking do you notice most in your child? Are they the one who are always asking, is that true? Or do they come up with wild ideas and dreaming up new possibilities? Or maybe they like to break things down, organizing the world around them. Or perhaps they are planners, thinking ahead and setting goals. Maybe they are deep thinkers, always reflecting on how to improve. Again, the most important question, which one do you see in yourself? No need to answer out loud. Again, it's just something to reflect on. Because when we understand how we think and how our children think, we are able to guide, stretch, and support them on their journey. And when we model these thinking habits ourselves, we create a home where curiosity, clarity, and growth are norm, not exception. So let's step a little deeper now. Metacognition. Now that we have looked at different dimensions of thinking and different types of thinking, let's zoom into something even more powerful, something that ties them all together. It's called metacognition. It sounds like a big word, right? But it simply means thinking about your thinking. I like to call it the GPS of mind. You know, when you're driving, your GPS tells you rerouting because you missed a turn. Metacognition works in the same way. It helps us pause and say, wait, where is my mind going right now? Do I want to keep thinking this way? Why am I thinking this way? It's like holding up an inner mirror. And here's the magic of it. Metacognition gives us choice. Instead of running on autopilot, it helps us become the co pilot of our minds. It's what helps children and us adults become more aware of how we learn, how we react, and how we can reroute when needed. It builds self awareness, better decision making, and even emotional control. So here's a reflective moment. Have you ever caught yourself thinking something like this? When you were thinking and then you stopped and said, actually, maybe I need to look at this differently. That's the moment. That's metacognition in action. And it's one of the most powerful gifts that we can give to our children. Well, you might say that it's almost similar to reflective thinking. But let's take this a step further. While reflective thinking often looks back to analyze, to evaluate, or process past actions, metacognition is more active in the moment. It's about being present with your thoughts and making conscious choices as you go. Now, but we have unpacked the different types of thinking and different dimensions of thinking. Let's shift our focus and explore the powerful why. Why these thinking tools are foundation for shaping resilient, adaptable, and future-ready minds. We will explore now. So, before we go into research and the reasons why thinking matters, let's pause for a moment and actually experience it. Here's a scenario. In the end of the day, backpack drops by the door. Your child walks in, shoulders low, expression tired. Sat down and said, I stayed quiet. No one listened to me. And you ask what happened. And the child explains, we had group work again. I had ideas, but no one paid attention. They just talked over me. There's no tantrum, there's no tears, but just that quiet frustration you can see. Now your mind starts moving. Thoughts forms, maybe some emotions rises, or maybe a judgment. What's your first reaction? What exactly internally you are thinking? I would like to know from each one of you. I will request my host to please share the poll in the chat and share it on the screen too. Just please feel free to vote because there is no right and wrong answer. It's anonymous poll. There is no judgment. We just need to know different thinking styles.
Okay, I think we have 19 of them have participated. Let me in the poll and share the results. So 0% answered that they are too sensitive again. 15% answered, I need to teach them to speak up. 0% answered, what might they be feeling? And 85% answered, let's explore this together.
Okay, let's see. So if you said that they are too sensitive again, it's actually telling an automatic reaction, often shaped by emotion, stress, or a regular habit. If you say, I need to teach them to speak up, it's quick to act, but not always tune into the moment because it's a problem solver mode, but it's kind of action without reflection. If you say, what might they be feeling? So that means you are in the empathy mode. It's an empathy cue. It's like you're trying to be in their shoes. You're trying to really noticing their inner world before jumping in. And the fourth one, let's explore this together. This is the metacognitive mindset. Aware, intentional, growth oriented. Because in that moment, you become aware of your own thoughts. You notice where they came from. Maybe a belief, past experience, or your own mood. So you saw that you could choose how to respond. It's in your hand. It's your thought process, and you have a choice to think and to respond. It's a it's really powerful, because we want to build in ourselves first, and then we need to build the same thinking habits in our children. Okay, let's pause for a moment and think about the world we are living in today. According to Howard, McKinsey, and others, more than 40% of adults they struggle with basic decision making, problem solving, and even managing their emotions. But here's the thing. It's not because people aren't smart. It's because thinking, real, intentional, reflective thinking was never taught when it mattered the most. Not in the quiet moments of childhood, not in the classrooms of our schools, not in the safety of home. So, what happens instead? People grow up reacting more than reflecting. They absorb emotions more than examining them. They follow the crowd rather than follow their own compass. And this isn't just one opinion in the article. These are the reports from OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, UNESCO, World Economic Forum. They all echo the same truths. That skills like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and self awareness are no longer soft skills. They are essential tools for thriving in an unpredictable world. John Hattie, one of the world's most respected educational researcher, he reviewed over 800 studies and found that one of the highest impact tools for learning is teaching children to think about their own thinking, what we call metacognition. So, what does Islam say about thinking itself? We will explore it now. Let's pause and see through the lens of our faith. Because in Islam, thinking is not optional. It's not just a classroom skill, it's a spiritual responsibility, a divine gift from Allah. And when done with intention, it becomes ibadah, an act of worship. Quran doesn't simply encourage us to think, it calls us, it challenges us. Afala taqilun, will you not use your reason? Afala tatafakkarun, will you not reflect? Afala yatadabbarun al-Quran, will they not ponder its depth? These are not gentle suggestions. These are divine wake-up calls, urgent, deliberate, unmissable calls. So let's take a closer look. The root word aql is representing reason and intellect. It appeared 49 times as a verb in Quran, not as a fixed trait, but as an action. Yaqilun, taqilun. Why? Because reasoning in Islam is an action, something you do, not just something you have. Tafakkar, to reflect on creation of life and science, a call to look inward and outward. Tadabbur, to deeply ponder the meaning of Quran. It's a journey into divine wisdom. These terms are beautifully distinct, yet they are deeply connected. They form a map for a believing mind. Akal helps us reason. Tafakkar invites us to reflect. Tadabbur draws us into revelation. And here's where the Islamic perspective adds a deeper layer. In our faith, we are constantly reminded to be mindful of what's in our heart and mind. The Prophet ﷺ taught us actions are judged by intentions. That awareness of what's driving our thoughts and choices is exactly what metacognition nurtures. It's not just a mental skill, it's a spiritual habit. It helps us live with niyyah, intention. So when we nurture metacognition in our children, we are not just building thinkers, we are raising conscious, intentional Muslims who think with clarity, who act with purpose, and who live with heart. Because today, the greatest legacy that we can leave isn't wealth or fame. It's an ummah that thinks, reflects, and thrives by the light of Allah's words. Okay, let's look at how the prophets nurtured thinking, not just with speeches or commands, but through reflection, questioning, and giving space to reason. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he saw a dream that he must sacrifice his son, he didn't just impose it. He gently asked, as we can read in Surah Safat, verse 1 or 2, "O my son, indeed I have seen a dream that I must sacrifice you to see what you think." Can you hear that? A father inviting his son to reflect, not just obey. That's mentoring the minds. Then we have the example of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. His story in Quran is filled with moments of deep thought. He reflected, he interpreted dreams, he stayed silent when required, and he spoke only when it mattered. And when he had the power to punish, he chose mercy. He didn't just react, he thought with clarity, emotional control, and purpose. That's strategic, faith based thinking. And our beloved Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he modeled reflection in the most human and gentle way. He often asked his companions questions, not to test them, but to make them think. Like when he said, "Do you know what backbiting is?" He let them reflect before he explained. He gave his companions, even children, the space to ask freely. Young companions like Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, were encouraged to observe, question, and think. And never once were they made to feel ashamed for speaking up. In moments of great decisions, like Badr or Uhud, he didn't make decisions alone. He practiced shura, consultation. He welcomed others' viewpoints and sometimes even followed the opinions of those companions. That's true prophetic leadership, built on shared thinking and humility. However, it's really important to remember that shura isn't about seeking advice from just anyone, but from those who have wisdom and integrity. Because as thoughtful individuals, knowing when and how to practice shura requires deep reflection and faith based thinking. It's not just about gathering opinions, but choosing the right people to consult and applying the insight gained with care. Today, we can draw inspiration from these prophetic practices. Thinking is not just intellectual skill, right? It's a spiritual tool for making decisions, guiding others, and growing in faith. So when we encourage our children to pause, to ask, to reflect, we are passing on a legacy of prophetic minds that think with taqwa, deep awareness, and connection to Allah. All right, so now we are stepping into the most important parts of today's session. How? We have already talked about why thinking is so vital. We have explored the role of akal, tafakkar, tadabbur through the lens of our faith. Now let's talk about how to actually nurture these thinking skills in our children, because this is what the real think is. This is how we can actually help them. Practical ways that we can use in our home, in our classroom. This is what we are going to explore next. So let's take a moment to reflect on whether thinking actually happens just because of strategies, or do we need something before that? Just like plants, they need light, they need soil to grow. Minds, they need the right environment to grow. And trust me, we don't need anything fancy. It's just the intention that we need. So there are three key ingredients: physical space, emotional safety, and intellectual spark. Physical space. We can keep the chairs in circle rather than keeping them in rows. Why? Because that's how Prophet ﷺ, he would gather his companions. Why? Because circles invite eye contact, dialogue, and connection. The second thing that we can do is the wonder wall. We can add a wonder wall in our homes where children can pose questions, even wild ones. Second thing is the emotional safety. We have to adopt a no silly question rule. When children feel safe to ask, they feel safe to think. One of the example of emotional safety in Islam is when one of the young companion of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ during his prayers asked, "Has the prayer been shortened?" This was after the Prophet had prayed 2 rakah instead of 4. That young companion, he felt safe to speak up, raise the question, and Prophet acknowledged the concern, showing how young people were encouraged to ask questions without fear. Second important thing for emotional safety is to celebrate mistakes as learning moments, not failures. Lastly, intellectual spark. Make it a habit. Ask your children, what make you wonder today? Or offer a simple weekly Quran journaling prompt, like, what is Allah teaching us in this verse? Connects reflection with faith. Remember, you don't need more space. You just need to shape the space you have in your home. Because when we create environments that welcome thought, we raise hearts and minds that dare to think. All right. Now, because we have set the foundation in place, let's look at how can we practically build thinking habits according to cognitive development stages, age by age. Let's begin with our youngest learners, children aged 2 to 5. At this stage, children learn best through playful experiences, sensory exploration, and curiosity. One simple, powerful practice is wonder walk. As you walk outdoor, you invite your children to collect pebbles, soft leaves, or petals, or smooth sticks. You can gently ask them, why do you think some leaves are green, some leaves are yellow? Why do you think we have different textures on these stones? Why the colors of the petals are so different? This helps them begin noticing differences and patterns. You can also make this a moment to reflect on the beauty of nature, saying, look at these trees and leaves. Can you feel the perfection of Allah's creation all around us? The second thing you can do is the why game during the everyday routine. For example, while peeling an orange, you can say, why do you think this fruit has skin? Instead of rushing to answer, pause and ask, what do you think? And when you ask questions like, did you know Allah made this fruit so special? What other fruits do you think Allah has made for us to enjoy? You help them connect their thoughts to the beauty of Creator. Third, visual boards. Visual boards is another lovely idea. After reading a picture book, you can ask your child to draw what they think might happen next, or what part of the story made them feel happy or curious. Even small experiments, like, you know, placing an ice cube in sunlight and asking, what do you think will happen next? Let them wonder, let them guess. That's thinking in action. Because at this age, it's important to nurture their appreciation for the nature. You can ask them to look at different colors. You can ask them, did you know how our Creator made each one of them so special? Okay. So now we move to ages 6 to 8. It's a beautiful time when children's thinking begin to stretch beyond the surface. We can ask open-ended questions. These are the questions with no right or wrong answers. They invite imagination and reasoning. For example, you can ask with the one like, if you could design a tree house to help others, what special things would you have? Maybe you can add, how would your tree house help you please your Creator? You can even create a weekly discussion time where the whole family ask open-ended questions together. Another way is using thinking cards. Thinking cards are simple prompts on the paper that spark thoughtful conversations. You can use the cards with some questions. You can write those questions. You can print those cards. You can laminate them, or you can just use sticky notes as thinking cards and write some thoughtful questions on them. For example, why do people sometimes do right things even when it's hard? You can ask them to think of a time when Prophet ﷺ chose what was right, even when it was difficult. Try using thinking cards as weekend family game. You can turn the dinner or tea time into meaningful conversations. Another thing that you can do is the reflection walls. That's a space where children can post drawings or reflections in response to a question. For example, after reading a story like The Rainbow Fish, you can ask, what would have happened if the fish had never shared its scales? Let them reflect. You can ask them, how does sharing make Allah happy with us? This wall should become a visible space for growth and understanding. Most importantly, model thinking through questions. When your child asks, why do I have to pray? You don't need to jump on the answer. Rather, you can say, why do you think Allah wants us to pray? Let them reflect first, then gently guide them. At this stage, children can begin to think values and how there is a connection between their values and their identity. You can even ask them, what's one way you used your strength during this week, like kindness, patience, honesty, to please Allah this week? From age 9 to 12, we enter a powerful stage where reasoning, reflection, and ownership of ideas really begin to develop. Try Socratic questioning, a method of asking layered questions that lead to deeper thinking. Like after reading a story or discussing a real life situation, you can ask, do you think the person made the right decision or just the easy one? You can follow up with, what have you done differently and why? So, another thing that you can do is after reading Sirah of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ about showing kindness to his enemies, you might ask, what do you think about Prophet choosing to forgive his enemies when he had the power to punish them? What do you think we can learn from his decision in terms of dealing with people who wrong us? This approach helps the child reflect on a key moral lesson from the Sirah and even think deeply about how they would apply similar values in their lives. Debate circles. You can build debate circles at your home. It's a way of building reasoning and respectful disagreement. You can bring up some real life issues. For example, like should students be allowed to choose what they learn in school? Let them take a side, provide them with examples, and respond to others' views. So, when you can do this, maybe at dinner time, maybe on a weekend, maybe you can call it a debate and dine. Set a time, set a routine. Now, let's think about this from Islamic angle. You can ask, what would the Prophet ﷺ say about learning? Why is seeking knowledge is a duty in Islam? Another strong tool that we can use with 9 to 12-year-old is reflective journaling. It's a private space to process emotions, thoughts, and decisions through writing. We can encourage a reflection Friday or before bedtime, at least once in a week. We can ask them and we can model them to reflect on how their week went. We can use prompts like describe a time when you did something brave, even when it was hard, or maybe write about a moment when you felt closer to Allah. Ask, what were you doing exactly? This helped children. This helped children make connection between their experiences and their faith. Another good tool is a thinking table. It's a quite visible space at home with a few inspiring quotes, reflection questions, whiteboard, or a notebook where you can sit together as a family on Sundays or Friday, any one day. You can post a question. What went well this week? What do I wish I'd done differently? Another strong way is Quran's Wonder Jar. You can create a Wonder Jar in your home where you or your children can drop written questions about Quran, life, and faith. Pick one question on a Tafsir Tuesday or a bedtime reflection day where you can actually discuss the question, where you can actually ponder, where you can actually get the reflection from your child and you can guide them thoughtfully. Here I've mentioned name of Ibn Abbas because you might hear his name again and again today during the webinar. Why? Because he was one of the youngest companion, known for his deep questioning and understanding. The Prophet ﷺ made dua for his knowledge and Quran, that he became the model of reflection and curiosity for all the young minds. Okay, now for the teenagers, age 13 and up. This is when thinking becomes layered, moral, and grounded in the real world. What can we do? We can begin with ethical debates. These are the structured conversations where teens take a stand on complex issues, learn to reason, and reflect. You might ask for dinner, or even while you're going on a trip, you can have this ethical debate session with them. You can ask them, what do you think? Should students be allowed to use ChatGPT to finish assignments? Where should we draw the line between support, help, and honesty? Let them explain their opinions, support with reasoning, let them think critically, let them use their mind and connect the dots with their integrity and the responsibility they have. So basically, in moments like this, we really give them the authority to take accountability of their thoughts. We are always there to guide them, but the first thing is they need to take the accountability. We can even connect it by saying, honesty is the core value in Islam. Prophet ﷺ was known as Al-Amin, trustworthy, even by those who didn't follow him. So how do we stay honest even when no one is watching? What else we can do? Passion projects, which are deep dive explorations in a topic they care about, connected to real world impact. They could be an inquiry or they could be a project where you can ask them, research why some cities have more green spaces than others and how that impact mental health. This builds curiosity and concern for community. And here's where we can gently direct them towards volunteerism. Encourage them to take action. Maybe ask them to join a local cleanup. Maybe ask them to join a small community initiative. We can even tell them that In Islam, giving time and effort without expecting anything back is highly rewarded. It's called ihsan, doing good with excellence. So, what's something small you can do this week for others, just for the sake of Allah? Another powerful tool is bias detection or media analysis, where teens examine how stories are told differently and learn to question sources. What can we do? Maybe you can share two headlines about the same event and ask, how might a student's opinion differ from a teacher? Where do you see bias? And how do you verify what's true? This builds media literacy and even strengthens their sense of fairness and justice. You can reflect together with them by telling them that we were taught in Islam to verify information and not to spread it blindly, like in Surah Hujrat, verse 6. If a wrongdoer brings you news, investigate. So it is our responsibility that we should verify the information. And we should not forget the importance of reflective questions. That's a way to process value, decision, and emotions. As we discussed earlier about reflective thinking, reflective questions is a very strong tool where you can have a quiet time weekly, each one of you write some prompts, write some questions that are actually reflecting on your week, that are actually reflecting on your thinking. Maybe a question like, what did I stand up for this week, even if it wasn't popular? Or where do I see Allah's guidance in my day-to-day decisions? You can say to your teen that it's okay not to have all the answers, but what's more important is to ask, is to reflect, and is to grow through the experience. So please don't forget that you are your child's first and most powerful thinking coaches. Long before a teacher steps in, before any school, any screen or app enters their world, it's your words, your questions, your responses that begin shaping the voice inside them. The voice that says, it's okay to wonder, it's okay to know, it's okay to ask why. Every time you pause with them, reflect with them, every time you ask, what do you think? Instead of giving them answer, you're not just parenting, you're shaping a mindset. And here's something powerful to hold on. Critical thinking and creative thinking, they are two sides of the same coin. And as their first guide, it's your responsibility to help grow both sides equally. Because when those two sides meet, that's when the mind becomes a fortress of understanding, not just absorbing facts, but thinking deeply, logically, and imaginatively. Because we're not here to fill their head with answers. They already carry the spark to discover those answers themselves. Then what's our role? Our role is to raise minds that questions with clarity, dream with courage, and reflect with purpose. Not all schools are built to nurture thinking skills in a way they deserve. And that's okay, because home is where it begins. And you are the teachers of a future thinker, of a future problem solver, and a change maker. So, as we come to end of this session, I invite you to take one simple action this week, something small but meaningful that you can try at home. Whether it's asking your child what made you feel proud today, setting up a thinking corner, or playing the why game. I would request my host to please share this last poll
Yeah.
because it's just a beautiful way for us to see collective momentum of this group so that we can cheer each other up. We can build more reflective, intentional generation together.
So we have our results, 33% have answered, they're going to ask a deep question, like what made you feel proud today? 11% like the idea of creating a reflection wall, post daily thoughts on sticky notes. 56% like the game, play the why game, ask, why do you think that happens? And none of them, answered for the setting up a thinking corner.
Okay. Just a second. I would like to share my screen again. So most of you chose that play the why game. Ask why do you think that happens? That's nice to know. Yeah, and remember, there's no one correct answer. It's just that we want to know what exactly all of us are thinking collectively. Because it's most important that what we are learning today, we are ready to implement. We are taking it into action to really bring change in our children. I just wanted to show you some samples of the tools that I have shared with you that might be helpful to visualize how they look. Yeah. So these are some of the tools that you can see as visuals, like vision board, like reflective journal, thinking corner, question jar, wonder wall, thinking cards, and the thinking circles, family thinking circles. So just wanted to let you know that today's webinar was just the beginning, a first step on a much bigger journey. Because if we want to raise young minds that don't just follow, but think, question, reflect, and grow, we need to keep showing up for them and for ourselves. In the coming months, we'll dive deeply to explore different dimensions of thinking, like critical thinking, in depth, creative thinking, metacognition movement, resilient minds, and emotional intelligence. Now, one question. You might be thinking that my children have already grown up, or I don't have children, or I didn't know all this before. Is it too late? Or even, can I work on my own thinking as an adult? And the answer is absolutely yes. It's never too late to learn something new. In fact, just asking this question shows a growth mindset. You can start right away where you are with simple tools, simple steps. You need to move gently towards the advanced strategies. Don't pressure yourself doing everything at once. Rather, go step by step, reflect, practice, keep going. This roadmap is not only for parents, it's for educators and every adult who mentors young minds and anyone who is ready to grow with them. Because our goal isn't just raising smart children, it's to nurture thoughtful, emotionally aware, grounded human beings. Let me briefly introduce a powerful initiative I'm proudly part of, TOES, the Organic Educator System, founded by Mr. Kasser Abbas. TOES is a parent-led initiative by a diverse team of skilled volunteers from around the globe, all working selflessly for the betterment of our children and for the Ummah. It envisions a generation of young minds rooted in empathy, trained for sacrifice, and prepared to act with vision, values, and volunteerism, what we call the three V's. What makes those truly unique is our concept based curriculum that is thoughtfully integrated with Quran and Sunnah. This approach ensures children develop deep understanding, grounded character, and purposeful thinking, all from Islamic worldview. Our framework is structured across four phases: Spark, Track, Epics, and Rise, aligned with the stages of cognitive development. These phases nurture children as reflective thinkers and responsible change makers. In response to parent interest, we have recently launched online classes for our Spark and Track phases as pilot program, allowing us to refine and grow based on real-time family feedback. As an education consultant with TOES, I contribute to shaping learning pathways that inspire not just academic curiosity, but meaningful, values-driven growth. So if this vision aligns with what you hope to nurture in your child, I warmly welcome you to explore more at toeschool.com. Okay, something exciting is coming to your way. You'll be receiving a practical toolkit via email within 24 hours after this session. It will be filled with simple strategies, powerful questions, and everyday ideas that you can start using right away. You can print it, you can post it, you can keep it close to yourself. What's the purpose? The purpose is not to pressure you, but to provide you with resources, but to provide those tools that could be helpful for you, that could be handy for you. And as you use these ideas, you let us know how it's going. Share your moments, your wins, even your questions. We would love to stay connected and support your journey. And lastly, I want to remind you of something important. We are not here to raise echoes of our own voices, but to awaken minds that questions, dream, and lead with purpose. Let your home be a heaven where wonder is welcomed, curiosity is celebrated, and thinking becomes a way of life. Because when you raise a thinker, you shape the world. Remember, we need to teach children how to think rather than what to think.